Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Greene shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Welcome back to another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And I'm coming at you with a solo episode, and this one's for readers. And I mean, even if you're not that big of a reader, this is a list that you can get through. These are the 10 best books for real estate investors. I've read all of them. If you have other ones, use the comments on Spotify or contact me through the website, and over time, I'll add to the list. There were some runner-ups. You're going to get 10 plus a bonus plus a game right now. Let's go. This is episode 346 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And I'm coming at you with a solo episode, one that maybe I should have done a while ago. But now I'm getting into the groove of these solo episodes and coming up with ideas where I can go just me to you to give you some information. And today, it's the 10 best books for real estate investors. There's a ton of books that can provide you value. Almost all of these are blatantly real estate books. There's kind of one that's a little bit off to the side. I didn't put any in that were like strict mindfulness type of things. That may come in another episode where I give you 10 books to help you with the mindset part of it. But these are 10 books that I've found super helpful to me. I've read every single one of them. I'm going to go through the books, obviously, the authors, the blurb that I pulled. I asked ChatGPT to just give me kind of like one small paragraph, and then I'll just go through what I got from the book as well as other things involved in that kind of asset class or industry or whatever the book's about. And then I think it's a good time for you to reflect on which books of these have you read, which provided value. There's a lot of runner-ups that didn't make the list, and I may get to them while I'm talking about the other books. But I hope these episodes, these solo episodes, are helpful. And I hope this one in particular is kind of just great to have a nice list that you can look at and say, which ones of these haven't I read and which should I just mark next on my book list? So if you're ready, I would say they're not in any particular order, except the first one's the best. So maybe that's in order. Let's get going. 10 best books for real estate investors. Again, completely my opinion. There's probably other books that maybe I forgot. I kind of look through all the books that I have at my office and at home and just pick these out. There's a lot of other ones that I like as well, and I'm sure I'll touch on some. And then I have a bonus one at the end for House Nerds, which is one of the greatest books ever. Let's go. Number one. So this book was gifted to me by my preferred real estate attorney in New Jersey, Ashley Molson. Shout out the Molson Law Firm. She's done over 100, probably like 200 transactions for me and my brokerage and my team before. She does a great job, and she's like me, has that Zen mindset. She gifted this to me, and I gifted her back Awareness by Anthony DeMello, but I had never heard of this book. And when I go as a guest on podcasts and they ask me to recommend one book on real estate investing, it's literally always this. And I'd be surprised if you've read it. If you have, great job. I just love it. It's my favorite. It's number one. I think everybody can get a lot out of it, from kids all the way up to adults. Been in the business for so many years. It's a real collaborative recitation of mindset, investing, family, and just kind of being a person. It's called The Wealthy Gardener, and there is a little bit of a gardening aspect to it. It's really interesting. The Wealthy Gardener: Lessons on Prosperity Between Father and Son by John Saforic. And so it's a mindset-driven book that emphasizes discipline, patience, and long-term thinking. It's less about tactics and more about developing the habits and philosophy needed to build lasting wealth through consistent investing. I mean, ChatGPT couldn't have blurbed that any better. That's exactly what it is. It's actually a very touching book too. And what I like about the book list that I've created is they're all not nuts and bolts type of books. This book is a story. It's a full-on story that you're going to read through, and it's going to give you a ton about family, a ton about life, a lot about real estate investing, and honestly, some tips about gardening. They really match them well between gardening and investing. And as the blurb was saying, it's really a long-term thinking book. And as you've probably heard me pontificate on several other episodes, I feel like the culture is suffering from short-term mindset. Everything's become shorter form content. And I think that if businesses and people in real estate investing started to think more long term, they would build better businesses. And again, that's also part of the problem. And this comes up in the book very much, that people are working jobs as they get into real estate investing, and they're treating it like a job, and they're not running it like a business. The Wealthy Gardener will teach you how to think long term and how to adjust to growing a business. It will even show you all the pitfalls that you can go into, because in the story, the pitfalls are hit several times. Like, is this really the best advice? Is this the thing that's really going to work for me? Who should I trust? These are all important questions for you as a real estate investor, or someone who wants to become a real estate investor, or even someone who wants to dial down their real estate investing and get a little bit more passive and understand what's going to be a long-term return for me. So any book, any podcast that you've heard me on where they ask for a book, you're always going to hear this: The Wealthy Gardener by John Soforic. Order it. I'm going to be developing a list from this episode on Amazon. Of course, it'll be an affiliate, but I'll put it in the show notes. It'll be an affiliate book list of this top 10 plus one books. And then you can order direct from there. I will get a little bit of a fee from Amazon. It's probably like 5 cents. I honestly don't know, because I built the shop and I've never even put the list out, but it will be in the show notes. Look for book list affiliate link and they'll all be in there. And how many of you have read it? That's what I'm curious about. If you love it as much as I do, go to zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com, go to contact page, send me a message. We can chat it out about that. I am actually considering, before I get to the other books, if you listen to Founders by David Senra, and now David Senra has his own podcast called David Senra. But if you listen to Founders, literally one of the greatest podcasts of all time if you want to learn about businesses and people. But I'm considering kind of doing book episodes like Senra does on Founders for some of these books, especially number one would be The Wealthy Gardener. So if that's something you're interested in, you could always just give me the feedback on the Spotify comments. You can comment on the YouTube, or you can just send me that email through the site. Let's get to number 2. I'm quite sure you've heard of The Little Purple Book, and there's no way you're making a top 10 list without it. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad: What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money That the Poor and Middle Class Do Not. Robert Kiyosaki. Now, Bob's been around for a long time. His later commentary in the last few years has been pretty divisive to some. I just go back to the book. I love the book. I mean, I had already been investing for, I started walking properties when I was a kid with my dad. I'd never got the book. I don't know if my dad read that book. I wish I could ask him, but he never gave it to me. So I assume that he didn't. But it's definitely a book that he probably would have given me. The interesting thing is it talked a lot about leverage in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and my dad didn't use leverage when we started. So here's the blurb: a foundational book that shifts your perspective from earning income to acquiring assets. It introduces the core concept of cash flow and asset ownership that underpins real estate investing. It also talks a ton about leverage. And I think if you read something in there, you'll find something as an overriding theme. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, it says shifts your perspective from earning income to acquiring assets. What do I always call myself? I call myself an asset hunter. That's what I want you to be, because I think you can be an asset hunter with any amount of money. It just depends where you want to invest, what you want to invest in, how long you're willing to wait, how long you're willing to build a foundation. And I love the rich dad, poor dad philosophies in the book, because you can see where things go wrong in terms of how that information is being received. And similar to the wealthy gardener, you see a lot where you have to make decisions. Who should I listen to? Is this the right path for me? If they're being tough on me, is this really what I want, or should I just do something that's quicker? So there actually is a pretty good cooperability between the wealthy gardener and rich dad, poor dad. I loved in Rich Dad, Poor Dad how Kiyosaki talked about good leverage, because again, I grew up a cash investor. I was almost scared of leverage. And then after I got divorced when I was much older, I started to use leverage. I mean, I could have not, but it was there. I started to figure out the difference between good leverage and bad leverage. And I've literally only used good leverage in my life. And I think, fortunate to myself, I've never had to use leverage. I mean, there's definitely times I did not want to put out all cash for something. So that obviously makes sense. But I was fortunate. So using leverage was a perk to how I could invest. And I understand if you're putting up your last money for down payment, you need the leverage, and then you could be at more risk. So I do understand that. But I loved how he talked about, bad versus good leverage. I think if you go over the previous 345 episodes of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad has probably come up, I'd say like 50 times. That'd be 1 of 7, so 14%. So probably about 15% of the guests have mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's just a guess off the top of my head. But again, it's kind of like a tiny computer up there. So it's probably pretty close. And I think that just shows you, I mean, we had guests who talk about reading it on deployment. That was an episode with Buddy Rushing. And I just think it's really interesting to know that there's so many people who get this book early. It doesn't hit them at the right time then. And then maybe they're in a different job, they lose their job, and they pick up the purple book again. And like now the thing is like, boom, steroids, it's going. So the thing about Rich Dad, Poor Dad is you can read it at the wrong time and think it doesn't make that much sense to you. But if you read it at the right time when you're motivated and you want to do it, that book is going to help you get off of your ass and into action. And that's what you need. Again, as I always say, I think you need to know other real estate investors to take action. It just helps you to have friends who are doing it. But this book has been the push to so many people over the years. And again, so many people have said they've picked it up again later and that it's made a difference. If you've never read it, get on it. I mean, come on. It's just something you have to read. It's like a rite of passage. It's like reading Catcher in the Rye when you're in, 6th grade or something. Just do it. You're going to love it. It's going to be interesting. And I like to go back and read books that I read years ago and see what I think of them now. And I haven't done that in a while for Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And just as a side note to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, you should get the board game Cash Flow. I'm going to put that in the list as well. I'm going to just add that to my list right now. That will be in the affiliate links, the Cash Flow board game, which I have played with my son. We're a big board game family. Cash Flow is a cool game. You could play with your friends. You could have cash flow nights. You could have it as a side thing at real estate investing events. I think it's real world. It's also kind of business buying in there. It's just a great game. So, and that came obviously from the book. And he has another book, Cash Flow Quadrant. So there's a lot of rabbit holes you can go down with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. Just read the first book. I definitely advise you to get Cash Flow. You can use the links that I'm going to put in the show notes. Number 3, and this is cool because I'm making a list of top 10 books, and then I've had some of these people on the podcast. That's pretty cool. Number 3 is The Hands-Off Investor and Insider's Guide to Investing in Passive Real Estate Syndications by Brian Burke. Brian was a guest on episode 69, How to Become a Hands-Off Investor. See what I did there? I know what I'm doing there with the titles, but I really, this book hit me at the exact right time. Here's the blurb. A more advanced look at how professional real estate deals are structured and evaluated. It focuses heavily on risk, underwriting, and sponsor quality, which most investors overlook. If there's a passive investor Bible, no religious intent there at all. I'm pretty a-religious. This is it. This book like cracked open my eyes. And before I invested in my first syndication in 2024, I read this book. And I had a ton of guests on the podcast at the time, but I wanted to read the book and put that with the podcast. And then I had Brian on the podcast a long time ago and just picked his brain. And I found that there's so many lessons that I talk about in the podcast. And when I'm having conversations with other syndicators on the podcast, which has been a lot of episodes, we always bring up the same thing. Trust the jockey. That's the operator. That's so important. I learned a lot about debt. And really, one of the main things that the hands-off investor did for me is that it made those giant pro formas and pitch decks that are very, very confusing if you're not used to seeing it all with all the numbers and acronyms. It made them much more accessible. It literally breaks down every part of a pitch deck that you need to look at and what's important and what's not. And it really makes you, like the blurb said, it makes you professional. It makes you look at it like a professional, and that's what you should do. Because investing as a passive investor has been so great for me because I take the ego out of the equation. I allow the professionals to do their job, and I sit back, kick back in like a train car, and I just read stuff every month, see how it's going. And so far, I'm 5 for 5. The fifth one hasn't started producing yet because it's a build. That's the wellness hotel. So I'm really excited about that. I'm looking at a sixth one right now, just trying to figure out how and where to put my money. But if you haven't read that, it's definitely like a calculated read. You get into the minutia, but if you want to learn how to invest passively in syndications in any asset class, read this book immediately, order it. You're going to love it. If you're looking for a story, this isn't like The Wealthy Gardener or even like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, where there's characters. This is Brian in his very, very straightforward way, if you know him, telling you what to look for. So appreciate it. And P.S., go back, listen to Brian's episode 69. You can go do that by going to zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com. Just go up to the search bar on the top, type in Brian Burke, boom, it'll come up. Listen to the episode. We had fun. It was a long time ago too, so I got to get in touch with it. Brian, if you're listening, going to have you back. Number 4, this was a surprise one. I hadn't read it until just this year in 2026. And everybody had always told me about Sam Zell. And I read a lot of Sam Zell content on Cody Sanchez's newsletter. I didn't really know how much real estate Sam Zell was involved in. And just because of the title of the book wasn't overt for real estate investing, no one ever recommended it to me. And now it's a no-brainer because this is a real estate investing book if you haven't read it. Sam Zell like dominated real estate, and it's crazy how much real estate is involved in this book. And if you know anything about Sam Zell, the title is going to be like a no-brainer. Am I being too subtle? Straight talk from a business rebel. That's by Sam Zell. He passed away, I think, about a year ago. If you listen to David Senra, he's done an episode on the book. So you can look up that on his podcast Founders and just look up Sam Zell. I think he's done a couple episodes on him and he does a great job going through it. But here's the blurb, a candid memoir from one of the most successful real estate investors ever. Boom. It provides insight into contrarian thinking, market cycles, and how to allocate capital across different opportunities. It's kind of like a nice kick in the mouth. Like you don't want it. It doesn't hurt that bad. Kind of feels almost good. And Sam Zell, I listened to the Audible and he read it and he just has this gravelly voice and it's just very, I don't know, it's almost like soothing because he is such a contrarian. The thing about Sam Zell, of course, it says, am I being too subtle? And if you know anything about him, the guy didn't give a one shit about what anyone ever thought of him. Which, I'm proud to say I feel the same way. But like you really can find a lot in this book about how to do business, how to get involved in real estate, and then how to go gigantic. We're talking, billions and billions of dollars of deals from somebody who did not start like that. That's why it's such an awesome story. It's a zero to hero type story, but with like just very, very modest. And, Sam Zell would just break it down if you don't know anything about him. He was like the only guy who was wearing jeans to work. And I guess probably like the 70s, I think. Everyone was in buttoned up suits and he would come and riding on a motorcycle in jeans. That's the type of guy this was. And he was just still crushing it in business. He said every day was Casual Friday. So, I mean, if you don't like that, I don't know what's out there for you. We're all Casual Friday since COVID anyway. I don't even know what my suits are doing. I just wear, shorts and a sweatshirt half the time. So that's number 4. Again, hope you're enjoying this. After number 5, we'll kick in for that kind of mid-range break. Number 5 is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor, The Secrets of Successful Real Estate Investing by Gary Keller. It's a structured blueprint for building a real estate portfolio based on models and systems used by top investors, strong on scaling and long-term strategy. Now, Gary Keller has another book that is like in my top 10, maybe of all time, in terms of motivational books. It's called The One Thing. And then also when I first got my real estate license about 13 years ago, I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That book was great too. That really kicked me into gear because it was a lot of frameworks and practices to help me get going. And because at the time I was around agents all over, and I was working at the time, my first brokerage I was at was Keller Williams. So it was cool to read it and then be able to pinball things off of other agents that were there. That's why when you have a book like Millionaire Real Estate Investor, it's cool if you have real estate investing friends, because then you can bounce these ideas off each other. You should, P.S. if you're not doing this at your real estate investor events, you should start a real estate investing book club. I have a book club at my brokerage for 4 years when we had a team. Hey, maybe we'll start the Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing book club and we can read these books together. But I really like the way these books are laid out. It gives you frameworks. It also gives you great ideas, and it's giving you tips from other investors. So it's not like just Gary Keller telling you what to do. There's a lot of things that, again, will play into long-term thinking, building a portfolio, taking it slow, which come on. Have you ever listened to anything from Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger? Slow down, do everything slow, no reasons to rush, don't trade, sit on it and wait, and there's plenty of things, obviously. Poor Charlie's Almanac, I haven't gotten to that yet, but I'm sure that's going to get on here at some point, or maybe it's going to be on the mindset one as well. So these are good books. You always know it by that. I think this one has a blue cover. The Real Estate Agent one has a red cover. But again, it's really enjoyable. And I think that's a good book to start with. I think personally, if you're starting out, that's probably a pretty good overhaul. We have some others that are good as well, but yeah, I really like it. That's 5. We're halfway there. Hope you're enjoying the solo episodes. I'm trying to give them more and more. I guess, they get hard to book it sometimes, and the booking companies, I think, are doing just a complete trash job. So I'm only really using the best ones. But hey, we're always looking for good new guests, but I really like these solo episodes, and I hope you are as well. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this 10 best books episode. We've completed 5. We've got 5 more to go. And I want to remind you that in the show notes, you're going to find an Amazon affiliate book list. That's the list that I've created. It's the 10 on this list, plus the extra one for people who really like houses, plus the game. So make sure when you're done with this, you go check it out. And if you're going to order the books, give it a try from that list. I honestly have no idea how much money I'll make, but it's probably like 1 cent per book. Let's get back to the show. Number 6. This one probably describes my dad better than anybody. The Millionaire Next Door, The Surprising Secrets of America's Wealthy by Thomas J. Stanley and William D. Danko. This explains that most wealthy individuals live below their means and build wealth through discipline and consistency. Reinforces the behavioral side of successful investing. Are you seeing a theme in the blurbs from Wealthy Gardener, Rich Dad Poor Dad, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, Millionaire Next Door, slow, steady, long-term thinking? I reference the Millionaire Next Door a lot when I'm talking about meetups, because I think I guess the outside public thinks of real estate investors as all flashy, trying to crush Lamborghinis and private planes. And it literally could not be further from the truth. There's so many real estate investors that you have no idea who the hell they are. They wear like Birkenstock sandals and drive a Honda Civic and have like 180 units that they manage themselves. That's like old school real estate, and it still exists. Has it gotten kind of like technified? Yeah, sure, a little bit. But I still think your Millionaire Next Door is a gut check. It's also a way to tell you that you can build slowly and that you don't have to be flashy, and you don't need a TikTok account, and you don't need to take images or videos of every single thing that you do as a real estate investor to build a content brand. It just may not be for you. For the people who do it, great job. But it is hard to see who's actually doing the work, and or if they're putting on a show. So when you read Millionaire Next Door, it's like a nice throwback, and it's basically set up in ways of just going through these random investors that you've never heard of, how they save money, what kind of cars they drive, who mortgages a house, who buys a big house, who buys a little house. And I think about houses all the time when I think about Millionaire Next Door. Houses are such an interesting thing. Like, if you have more than 5 bedrooms and you don't have like that many kids, if you don't have 3 kids, like, what are you doing with the other bedrooms? What's the point? Is it really like over 5 bedrooms just showing off? And it's cool if you want to show off. I don't have anything against that. It's fine. Sometimes you've worked so hard that you want to give yourself a giant present and you want it to look nice. And if you want a good view, these are all important things. But like 12 bedrooms, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Nobody goes in them. So like, what are you doing in 12 bedrooms? Why do you need it? Couldn't your money be better spent doing something else? That's how I've never lived in big houses. My dad did some kind of big flips and sweet houses when I was growing up. My favorite house was also my biggest blunder sale, which I've talked about on podcasts before in Florida. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I live in a big lavish house now. It's just a nice regular house because I don't need any more. My kids are adults and I still have too many rooms. So Millionaire Next Door, great book. It's an easy read too. You'll fly through it. Number 7, this is really the only one that is not directly real estate related. I think it's important because the underpinnings of real estate, as my dad taught me growing up, he talked a lot about real estate. There's only one thing he talked about more than real estate. Well, actually, when I was a kid, it was whether or not I was going to the bathroom. Yeah, that's true. But no, it was money. Because money is what helps you get real estate. If you have no money, you're not getting real estate. Sure, you could take a course that tells you can buy real estate with no money and get it to some funnel, but that's not really realistic. It doesn't work for a lot of people. So you need to know about money, finance, and what to do with your money, how to make your money appreciate, how to gain money. Again, I think this goes to working hard, staying at your job until you have enough money to build a foundation for real estate investing. So this one is a money book. And it's newer, and he actually, I think he's just last year published another book that was good as well. So it's The Psychology of Money, Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness by Morgan Housel. And he's been on a lot of podcasts. So if you want to just like, I don't feel like reading that book. He's been on Diary of a CEO. He was on a couple of those. I think he was on, I don't know. I don't think he was on Rich Roll, but he was on another one of those, maybe Tim Ferriss or something. It focuses on how behavior and decision-making impact financial success, especially relevant for managing risk, staying patient, here we go, and thinking long-term in real estate. There you go. That's the psychology of money. Can you be like Buffett and Munger, or do you want to be flashier? I don't know. What's the smart move? For me, I've always been a slow player. I think when I've made mistakes, it's just been rushing or building partnerships that I shouldn't have built. But I like Morgan Housel's books. I like the way he talks. I like the way he thinks. I like listening to him on podcasts. He's a real no bullshit type of person. Tells you what he thinks and why. Don't have to agree with all of the things money-wise. And I think with all money people, you don't have to agree with everything that they say. You're just going to try to get the biggest tips from what he brings out in the book from other people and how they handled their money. Because if you're not good with money, you're not going to be good with real estate. Real estate you buy with money and leverage. And if you're bad with money, you're going to make bad decisions in real estate because your money pile is going to get smaller, and then you're going to sell something before you need to sell it to put money into something else. You do not want to be in that situation. I've been in it with a couple partnership loans that I made, and it just screwed me over. I did not like it. So that's a really good money book. I don't have his newest book in front of me, but I like that one as well. All right, we're cruising here. Number 8, I hope you've heard of this, but you might not have. But I've had this guy as a guest on my show, and then he sent me the book for free, and I was like, okay, I'll read it. I really liked him on the show. And then I read the book, and I was like, this is really smart. Nobody probably knows about this book. I think he was open about saying that too. It's Where to Get the Money Now, How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional Lenders. Jay Conner. Episode 60 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, Where to Get Private Money Now. So again, you can go to zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com, go to the top search bar, type in Jay Conner, Conner. It will pop up. Episode 60, long time ago, 9 episodes before Brian Burke's episode. He did a great job on the episode, and he's very old school. Very old school. He learned all of these. This book will literally tell you how you can create a private money network for yourself. When I read the book, I was like, I need to do this, and then I just didn't do it. But it's definitely something that I could do. I don't think I would ever have to use my own money. He's never used his own money. Not in like 30 years. And all of the people that are lending him are friends, people he knows. They're getting good terms. It's a win-win for them. It's just a very, very good book. Short read. You're going to read it in a day. Again, you can go to the Amazon affiliate link that I'm going to put at the bottom in the show notes, where you can get the 10 best books for real estate investors with a bonus book and then a bonus game, which is cash flow. So also go back and listen to episode 60 with Jay Conner. That was a really fun one. I should get him back on too. So Jay, if you're listening, you're going to get an email from me. The blurb for Jay's book is a tactical guide to raising private money for deals. It teaches how to build relationships and structure funding outside of banks, which is critical for scaling. It's really grassroots too. I mean, this is like the grassroots, no technology, person to person. Anybody can do this. Where to Get Money Now, Jay Conner. Number 9. So there was a few books that were in line for this. I thought about the rental property investing book by Brandon Turner. I didn't eventually go with that. Thought about the Burr book by David Greene. Didn't go with that. Those are both very good framework books. Like if you just kind of want to get an idea on rental properties, the first one is good. If you want to know about Burr, just again, don't apply the cost. Burr book is awesome. It's just harder to do Burr right now. So I wouldn't read that book right now. But this was the one I settled on because I think that there's a lot of people who can't afford their own markets. And this book is really good at giving you a wide overview of what to do. The book on long distance real estate investing, how to buy, rehab, and manage out-of-state rental properties. David Greene, same spelling as me, the former co-host of Bigger Pockets podcast. David was on the podcast with Brandon Turner for years. I was on the podcast with David and Rob Abasolo twice. And then I was on twice more with Dave Meyer. But David's a good guy. And these books that he has written are really good framework books for you to work it out. And so long distance, it can really help you. You know, you live in an area where it doesn't work and you want to get some more affordable properties in the Midwest and you're not in the Midwest. This will take you through it. It's a practical guide to investing in markets outside your local area. It focuses on building teams, managing remotely, and reducing risk when investing long distance. It's a great book. I mean, I've invested long distance in my life, and I read the book, probably 6 or 7 years ago. Hit home for me. It's just another reminder of all the steps that you need to take to make sure that you're not making a bad decision when you're trying to build a team. And there's a framework to trying to figure out where you're going to invest and why. And again, you can take my advice on how to build your list, which I've talked about in several other podcasts. But I think if you it's not working for you in your general area, or you kind of want to buy into something that's somewhere between turnkey and active, this is a great book for you to figure out how to do it. Shout out David Greene. P.S. David, why haven't I got you on the podcast? You and Rob, I email you all the time. Can't get you on the show. Let's go. It's time. I know you guys have the time for it now, so let's get it going. That was number 9. Now we're all the way at the end. So this one's a surprise because I bash the crap out of wholesalers all the time. But if you're going to read one book on wholesaling, this is the book I would read. It's called If You Can't Wholesale After This, I've Got Nothing For You, a step-by-step guide to wholesaling real estate by Todd Fleming. A straightforward tactical guide to wholesaling covers lead generation, deal structuring, and closing, making it useful for sourcing deals or generating active income without holding properties. This is another one-day read. It's like a very large pamphlet. You can cruise through it, make a bunch of notes. This is a great book to read if you want to do it. Like if you want to do it on a small scale and you just want to figure out how not to be like a jerk wholesaler. We all know they exist. Most wholesalers are just absolute trash. Like just bottom of the barrel garbage, BS, don't know what they're doing, aren't running a business, don't even know repair costs, trying to get too big of a spread. But the ones that are good, you look at and you're like, solid business. They got like hand over fist properties. So it is a viable business. I'm not big on promoting wholesaling, but I think if you do it well, you can do it very well. And this book would help you get started. As I've always said, I don't think the best wholesalers are wholesalers. I think they're local home buyers who get so good at their lead generation that they have overflow and they can't take down all the deals. So they start wholesaling the deals to their friends. And I think that's where you can go with it. But this is a good book. Again, it's like a half-day read at most. It's probably the shortest book of any of them on here. For sure. His and then Jay Connor's are the two shortest books. So that's the top 10. Those are the 10 best books for real estate investors. Again, there was a lot of other ones that kind of peaked in there that were almost, I also really like if you're trying to save for your first property, I really like Set for Life with Scott Trench. Had Scott on the show. He's the former CEO of Bigger Pockets. Him and I had a great conversation. He loves to talk money too. He's now the co-host of Bigger Pockets Money. You can again go to zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com, go to the search bar, put in the word Trench, and you'll find Scott's episode. So I want to give you one bonus book. If you're a house nerd and you kind of obsess about houses, how they work, and you're like into architecture like me, I mean, I'm like high scale dork. I love buildings. I love houses. I love everything about it. If you want to read the most technical and kind of emotional guide to building, this is a book that will blow your mind. And it's very long and there's a lot of like pictures and diagrams. It's insane. It's called How Buildings Learn What Happens After They're Built by Stuart Brand. Here's the blurb. A unique, non-traditional real estate book that explains how buildings evolve over time and why adaptability drives long-term value. It changes how you think about renovations, maintenance, and durability, helping you see properties not as static assets, but as systems that improve or deteriorate based on how they're used and updated. I was very obsessed with this book. And it's not even a book like you think. It's like a very long book, like a rectangle. So you really have to take the time to read it. Like you can read for 10 minutes and you'll maybe get through 2 to 3 pages because there's diagrams, there's photos. And this is like it's like an archaeological dig. There's like photos of how the buildings transform over time, how buildings fail. He talks a lot about architecture and what's good architecture and what's bad architecture. It's just an absolutely genius book. If again, you have to be a house nerd to read it. If you're just like into investing, don't get that book. You like pick up one page and you won't read it. But if you're into like historical renovation, the history of building, the history of houses and commercial buildings, it's the most incredible book. Probably in my top 10 of all time. Just awesome books to look at. It's so good. And again, remember your other bonus is to get the cash flow game. That was a Kiyosaki game. That game's fun. I mean, get it. have get 3 other real estate investors over, have a monthly game. You got to start thinking outside the box with how to connect with other real estate investors. I personally shut down my meetups because they weren't giving me as much of what I need. I was just tired of being a host. But I like the idea of having these monthly gatherings. You're playing cash flow. Then maybe next time you're going through, some asset class, or you're doing a book club. So this is your setup. You can create a book club with these 11 books plus the game. You can create a real estate meetup in your town. This is kind of the backbone to it. I think reading books, I read a lot. I think I read about like 70 books last year. That includes listening on Audible and reading, but I listen at 1x, so I don't rush it. But there's nothing more that will bring more knowledge to your brain than books. And there's just so much out there. And if you like my podcast and you like podcasts, listen to Founders if you're like a business nerd. It's the most incredible podcast. And then listen to David Senra, which is now him doing interviews with a lot of these people. But Founders is incredible. He just basically goes through the book and tells you all of the important parts about business and how people built, billion-dollar businesses. It's incredible. I don't even know him. I hope he hears this one day. I'd love to have a conversation with him. That would be awesome. But look, I really appreciate you guys listening. These are 10 books that I hope can in some way change your life somewhere along the way. You might read one passage in one book, just like you might hear one thing that I say on this podcast or that a guest says while you're driving in your car, in Indiana or in Washington State. And if it has any effect on you, that's a win for me creating this podcast and sticking through it at now episode 346. So again, in the links, the show notes, you're going to find a link that's going to be an affiliate link to my Amazon store where you can order any of these books right from there through my link. I don't know how much I get from it, but I'm sure it's not much, but they'll all be organized for you right there. Just look for, when you get the link, it'll be 10 best books for real estate investors and it'll go right there. You can order them all if you want. Start your book club. Thanks so much for listening. And thanks so much for being someone who brings value to the community of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing by being an audio participant. You can always get in touch with me at zenandtheartofrealestateinvesting.com. Go to the contact page, send me a message. It comes right to me. I have very few buffers. I have one buffer, but everything does get through to me. Hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you're enjoying the solo episodes. See you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview of what's coming up on episode 347 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. It's a back-to-back solo episode, real estate investing lessons from my dad, the OG, Stephen C. Greene. These are lessons that he passed down to myself and to my sister and to my stepbrothers, and he was passing them down all the time. So I'm going to give a little homage episode to my dad, but these are really basically the OG rich dad, poor dad lessons that my dad taught me, things we did, things you can still do today. And if you're wondering why there's so many solo episodes, podcast bookers don't get their guests to book. Guests don't book. People want to be on shows and then they don't book. I'm doing the best that I can, trying to line up some good people to come back. But honestly, we're almost at 350 and I'm starting to like these solo episodes a lot. I hope you are too. So I'll see you next episode with lessons from Stephen C. Greene. See ya.